I want to be real for a second when I say that I love Nintendo. Nintendo is and was always a big part of my childhood, as I'm pretty sure it was for you too. With their many iconic characters they created throughout the many years of them being on the market as a company, they have managed to go on to make some of the most iconic characters to not just gaming, but pop culture as a whole. Many people still love them to this very day, and heck, so do I. Heck, I'm pretty sure you do too. That's why you're watching this video right now. You saw this logo here in the thumbnail, so you decided to click on it. But as much as I love Nintendo, over the past number of years, something has changed over there with them, and that's not in a good way. I know at first glance, hearing and seeing this to many of you, this might seem like, oh, another typical YouTuber ranting about the Switch 2 stuff with, $80 games and whatnot, But let me go ahead and clarify this. I've had this video planned for a long time. In fact, I've actually managed to figure out when I had this video planned, that being 2 years ago, January 26, 2023. So if anything, the stuff about the Switch 2, it's just mere salt to the wound at this point. So now more than ever, I feel like now is a good time for me to share my thoughts with you guys, and hopefully Nintendo as well, about how I felt about them for the past number of years to all the way up to now. So with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, grab a snack, and get a drink, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and you listen to what I have to say. Enjoy the video, everybody. Nintendo, a game company that I'm pretty sure was a big part of your childhood as it was mine. So many fond memories with a great number of games and characters growing up that we all have managed to get to know to love. Besides other games that I'm very passionate about, most of my game shelf is mainly the great amount of games that have come from Nintendo over the years. Although there are a couple of duds here and there, I still love the many amount of games that have come from this company, from the NES to the N64, the GameCube, the Wii, the portables. Yeah, even that thing too! I love the many eras that Nintendo has had over the years, and the era where I was introduced to them couldn't have been a better one. I was introduced to Nintendo in the Wii and the DSi era, and like I said, couldn't have been a better era to be introduced in. I remember when my friend first showed me New Super Mario Bros. On the DS. As a little kid watching that opening cutscene for the first time, and then seeing him start to play through the first few levels on the bus ride home from school, I was really intrigued with this red overall plumber jumping on Goombas and getting power-ups where my friend thought Mario was spitting fireballs instead of throwing them. I don't know how he came to this conclusion as kids. By this point, the games I've played in my life were either most of the Sonic games on the Wii and some of the big LEGO games at the time as well. Not to mention some PS2 games thrown in there too, like Sonic Mega Collection Plus, Scooby-Doo Night of Frights, and SSX Tricky, just to name a few. Those are the games I've played up to this point. But when my friend showed me New Super Mario Bros. On his DS, I loved what I saw with this. The music, the levels, the fun gameplay I was watching all looked really cool, and very different from something like Sonic. Unfortunately though, I couldn't quite get a DS yet, so for a while I would just watch my friend play New Super Mario Bros. On his DS whenever we hung out. But I wouldn't have to wait too much longer, because later on in the year 2010, on Christmas morning, me and my sister got DSi's, and I was so happy to have one that I can finally call my own. I loved my black DSi. My sister got the iconic blue one that just about everybody had back then, but I was given a black one, and I love this thing so much. I've spent hours with my DSi growing up with all kinds of games, like Mario games, Sonic games, Disney games, that one Yogi Bear game. Not to mention the other wonderful features that came with the DSi, like the photo app with the built-in camera and filters, even the voice recorder app that was kind of a demo to my YouTube career. Or maybe that was the ADHD kicking in. Either way, the DS was a great console for me to be able to get into Nintendo, and after that, you could probably imagine the rest. I'd play more games on my Wii, and would go on to love Nintendo along with their many other games and franchises for many years throughout the other consoles and handhelds release. I'd play almost every Mario game I could find, fell in love with Smash Bros. That allowed me to find other IPs within Nintendo, collected plushies like a madman, I think I had a problem, and just played many games that are now well loved many years later. I managed to really become a big Nintendo fan as a kid, and would be one for many years. Nintendo really managed to be one of the best game publishers out there for not only mine, but for a lot of our childhoods throughout many generations. But with all that said, in recent memory, Nintendo has made it very clear that this is not the same company I knew before. Over the last number of years, Nintendo has been different. And that's not in a good way. Nintendo, for lack of a better term, is what one would say is on a bit of a decline. I'm not talking business-wise, no. They're doing just fine in terms of money and numbers. What I'm talking about is on the terms of where they stand with their fans and consumers. For the past number of years, Nintendo has proved to many that they are not the same company we knew before. Their whole vibe has changed, and you could see it from games to quality, passion, consumer friendliness, to even just being flat out greedy. Now granted, you can argue and say that Nintendo has never been a perfect company when it comes to stuff like their level of anti/pro-consumer or general corporate greed, but you can't deny that throughout the years after the Switch's second year on the market, Nintendo has changed for the worst. If anything, they are now just a shell of their former self of what they used to be. From games that are unfinished that lack content, to having games hardly running well on your own console, double down on anti-consumerism, cease and desist to just about everyone, middle fingers to fans constantly, to even straight up some of the most downright dumbest business practices I've ever seen from a company. Tell me something, does this screen look familiar to you? Nintendo in the last 5 to 6 years have managed to become their own worst enemy in so many ways, and have made a lot of people who were good fans turn their backs on them almost entirely. And to be perfectly honest, it's all of their own fault. The sheer fact that ex-president Nintendo America Reggie Fils has come out and said before that this is not the Nintendo he left, that alone should speak a huge amount of volume on how much this company has changed for the worse. It is now raining outside. This better not be too loud. Now, I understand all the problems that are with Nintendo right now have been brought up a million other times on this platform, which is why today I won't be person 1,000,001. Instead, I want to bring something slightly different to the table here on this conversation. Okay, look, I know that Nintendo is a company at the end of the day, and they care about making money. That's what a company is, no duh. But most of the time with companies, they still try to maintain that magical feel to them to bring them and the fans together. Nintendo have managed to do this for a while. Sure, they weren't perfect, especially in terms of the YouTuber landscape back in the day, where you had to join the Nintendo Creator Program to simply make YouTube videos about their game. Sure, there was that whole mess. That, again, makes Nintendo not perfect when it comes to this, but at least then, the vibe of Nintendo was still there, with each title that was being released. Now, though, the whole vibe of Nintendo that we used to know feels to be long gone now. It feels, for lack of a better term, very sanitized and bland, unlike how it used to feel. Let me ask you this. Do you remember the magic you felt when picking up a new Mario game for the Wii back then? To now, if you want to play a Mario game on the Switch, you only got a few ports from the Wii U, mediocre sports games that, to be honest, you touched maybe, twice? A sequel that everyone forgot about, and only one new 3D game, and one new 2D game. Now look, I get that games take more time to make now, and a lot got delayed with the pandemic in 2020, and it threw companies off, including Nintendo. And yes, I am aware that Super Mario Bros. Wonder had no deadline whatsoever, and they just let the developers take as long as they need to on that. I get that, I am aware of it, but listen, comparing then to now is night and day. The quantity is here, but it feels like the quality is not here at all much. Sure, Nintendo puts out some cool games for their console, but tell me something. Why is it that on launch night of the new Zelda game, why was my friend experiencing lag for a game made for this console? And let's be honest, does this game look like it should be lagging this much? It just feels like now Nintendo doesn't give a rat's behind about their fans or anything anymore. Do I hate Nintendo? No. I still love Nintendo, but the company that made these icons and experiences from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s hardly feels present. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like Nintendo is planning on stopping any of their greedy antics, because unless you've been living under a rock, the Switch 2 is now out, and its price tag on games is insane, and there is a number of other things with the Switch 2 that I really don't feel like getting into today that make me just really not care for the thing, nor want to buy it at all. And just the Switch 2 has very little meaning or value to me at the moment. I have literally no reason to buy it. Nintendo just doesn't feel the same anymore, and it saddens me because I loved this company so much when I was a kid, but now looking at them, it just feels very bland and sanitized, and that magic that used to be there with Nintendo just doesn't really feel present anymore. It just feels obvious to me that Nintendo is truly no longer the same. Or maybe not. As of editing this video, the newest Nintendo game has just been released, being Donkey Kong Bonanza on the Nintendo Switch 2. And this game, unless you've been living under a rock, has been received super well by both critics and audiences alike. Left and right, 10 out of 10s, perfect scores, if not that, near perfect scores. This game has even said to have felt like the Nintendo we all know and love. To quote a friend of mine who played it and said he had a good time with it, he says, "This game feels like the old Nintendo that I know from before." I personally have not played it because I do not own a Switch 2, at least not yet, because this game is kind of making me consider it now. But if it wasn't obvious, this video was scripted and recorded before this game came out. But I'm glad this came out before this video, because now that it's out, it's somewhat making me think that maybe, just maybe, that old Nintendo that we all fell in love with, and that magic of Nintendo, could still be there within them. And if that's the case, then there could be more magical titles yet to be released from them with this new era of Nintendo we are now in. Hopefully so, that is the case with Nintendo now. And if so, then perhaps Nintendo could get back on track and we can all know them as they once were. Although with that said, Mario Kart World's price still isn't valid though, just saying. Sometimes